Jason.
Any better?
A little bit.
Fine, be like that. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. Oh, yeah, no, that's got it. Oops, where are you? Okay. Well. Oh gosh, I look so good like that. It's ridiculous. Got it. Oops, where are you? Okay. Well. Oh gosh, I look so good like that. It's ridiculous. Oh yeah, yeah. No, that is great. No, I likes. No, it's okay. It's okay. That's good. We'll go with that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. But I'm gonna get a little stuff. Let's see. I should really just have an individual volume, but. Yeah. Oh, you know what I should do? Where's my themes?
Suck a dick.
Yeah, like that. Starring
Yeah, you do.
Night Sky. What?
What?
Matt, you are lucky you are god of this world.
Look, anyone else wants to DM, I'm happy to jump into the player role. I didn't choose the god life. The god life chose me.
I feel like you chose it.
While we are waiting for at least Adam and possibly Jamie, I would like everyone to kind of think about the game that we've been playing so far, specifically the campaign setting that we're in, the grimdark place of Barovia and the village of Barovia and the overarching villain, which presumably is Strahd. And just think about if this is a campaign that you guys like because of the campaign, or if you don't like it because of the campaign, or if you'd rather play a different style of campaign. Things like that. If you just like playing D&D, don't care about the campaign. if I'm making any sense. When we get Adam and hopefully Jamie in, I'm going to talk to everyone about some options we have moving forward. But while we wait for a couple more minutes, if you guys just give some thought to the campaign itself and your thoughts on it as a campaign, as a setting, that'll help with our options.
So far with Curse of Strahd, I absolutely love the setting, and it's just because I'm a hardcore nerd for like anything with dangerous mythology, like vampires, werewolves, stuff like that. But honestly, I am really here for the D&D and could care less.
Cool.
I am also mostly here for the D&D. I like different settings, so I'm good with wherever it goes.
Josh, did you play when I was running the few sessions of Rise of the Rune Lords?
No.
Didn't you? I thought that was the one that we were doing back at Matt's old place.
Yeah,
Was
it
it?
was the New Year's Eve game.
Then yes, I was.
Like, we only played like 2 or 3 sessions of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we only ran a particularly long New Year's Eve game.
Yeah,
I
that
don't
was
know that we ever ran
was-
it again.
when I had my cool scythe-wielding druid with the panther.
Yes, it was.
I do remember that one.
Speed.
But yeah, we played like 2 or 3 sessions of that, and then just we never really got like super far into any one of our Pathfinder campaigns. I will be so fucking happy when I get wireless headphones. You have no idea.
I'll be happy when the world goes wireless because I hate cords of all varieties.
Alright.
Yeah, I tell you what, the Lightspeed keyboard and mouse thing here, like, this is having no wires is kind of nice.
Do you have to plug them in to charge them?
Yeah, if they're running low, the cords are up here on the desktop. So I've got these pulled up, and they've got the little dongle in them. So they get better signal being up here, and if I need to, I just take the end off and plug it straight into either the keyboard or the mouse. But so far, they have been doing fantastical.
Fantastical. Josh and Jason, while we wait, if you guys want to come chill with me in the garage, I just put coals on a hookah.
2.
Cool. Yeah, let me see where my batteries are. Because I charged these once since I got them. And my mouse is at 97 still, and my keyboard is at 96. So we have spectacular battery life.
Yeah, doing good.
I have such good battery life. I have the best battery lives of all the batteries. The best battery lives.
Hi, Gatsby.
Oh my gosh, this tiny puppy. Mine is.
I don't know who you're calling tiny, but he says hi back, Matt. Hi, Poopy.
I call him tiny because he looks like he has no body fat. Even though that's not true as soon as he smacks into you. Holy crap. Alright, I will
Hello, we're back.
put it on the...
So
Hey, Adam.
I've considered looking into getting the Dark Heresy core book, because that.
Jason, can you say something for me again?
Test. 1, 2. Test.
Oh, okay. Much. It's something here, and we'll get my microphone too. So cool.
All right. We've got everyone. I've got Josh and Jason here with me. And I don't know about Jamie, but she may pop in as her life allows her to. There's Josh. Nice.
Jamie having a life.
All right. Well, a work life at least. Okay. So, Adam already talked to you briefly about this earlier tonight, so I'll skip the intro question I asked everybody else. The reason I wanted you guys to think about, actually, I don't know if Amanda can hear us with her headphones on.
I mean, they're wireless, so she's roam around the house with them probably. I don't know what their range is, but
I'm going to assume that's what's happening, and then if not, I'll back up when she gets back.
yeah, I mean, she won't be able to respond because the
Yeah.
microphone's there.
That's fine. Okay, so what I have come across as I've been prepping for our Curse of Strahd games has been a oh,
He left her.
she did. Can you hear me, Amanda? Cool. So, I was just getting started, so you haven't missed anything. What I was saying was, what I've come across in my prepping for the Curse of Strahd games we've been playing are, I just am not feeling the setting so much. The world that we're in, it's kind of a pain to prep, and there's not a lot of enthusiasm to DM this setting. So I wanted to just chat with the group and find out if people really love the setting and want to keep running it, and I can just try to find ways to tweak it so that it's more fun for me, or if people just like playing D&D and aren't really in love with the setting, if people are open to swapping to a homebrew setting, which would be just a world and a campaign that I create from scratch. In my time of DMing, I've run homebrew and public settings like Curse of Strahd, and I found that the amount of work required for both of them is roughly equivalent. In a homebrew, you're just coming up with everything on your own, and so you have sort of an ingrained understanding of the world. And so like the time goes into building and creating whatever is happening. Whereas in a public setting, it's the same amount of work, but instead of coming up with your own things and your own hooks and your own NPCs and world lines and things, you're basically reading a textbook and trying to understand the world that's already been created and trying to keep in mind the various plot hooks, the various NPCs, the various backgrounds, and all this stuff that someone else published. And so it's really just a lot of memorization almost. So it's a different thing, and for me, I'm just not loving this setting as much as I had hoped, based on the accolades that it's received, as it is pretty much always considered the best D&D adventure setting. So with that, I just wanted to pose to the group. I'm not saying that I won't run the Curse of Strahd if everyone really loves the setting, but if people are cool with changing the setting up, keeping your characters or creating new ones based on a new world, whatever, then I'd like to look at that. But if everyone loves the setting and loves Curse of Strahd, then I can look into, there's plenty of advice online for tweaking the setting to make it a little bit more DM friendly. So anyway, that is where I am. So I want to hear where you guys are, what you guys think.
I'm indifferent.
You just want to play D&D?
Yeah. I like my
Okay.
character. I don't want to keep my character.
You can keep her.
So, question to kind of clarify that with Matt. Is the homebrew you're planning, you're potentially going to make with this, going to be similar to Barovia, like kind of similar themes, or just we're going off our own tangent here? Like,
Well, so I'd rather not, because Barovia has a lot of issues.
Sure.
And there's some nice things about having a public setting you can kind of reference for things. But if I'm going to do, like, it becomes way more work to try to combine a public setting and a homebrew setting. So I'd rather just go homebrew and probably wouldn't do so much Grimdark. Necessarily, it would be much more high fantasy, most likely. And part of this is if we go down this road, I want to talk to the group about a couple of ideas that I have of campaigns that I could run that are homebrew. But they would be very dissimilar.
Okay, yeah, like that's not a problem for me. Like I'm just enjoying playing D&D with cool people. I will say that Barovia and by extension Curse of Strahd does lend itself heavily to the feeling of players versus the dungeon master versus the dungeon master being able to just create cool stories and see how they unfold. So with that in mind, yeah, I'm absolutely fine with create your own world where you don't have to feel like you're trying to kill us, but not so hard that it's impossible to win.
Yeah, like I more want to play a game where I'm not necessarily trying to kill you, and also trying to come up with reasons why Strahd doesn't just show up and murder you all.
Yeah.
Like they're just these big gaping holes that when you read the campaign from the Dungeon Master, you're like, what?
Like for instance, we're in this town that he is directly overseeing, and we're with this chick that he directly wants in his possession. So what is the stop?
Just fucking taking her? Nothing.
And nothing. He could just walk out in broad daylight, unarmed, and we still couldn't take him, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
He's probably at least 10 levels higher than all of us.
Yeah. So you have those gaps where you're like, whereas a Dungeon Master, it's like, I have a really hard time, dealing with that. Jerica?
Does that mean that we're completely going away from Curse of Strahd and just going with a complete homebrew?
That is what it sounds like everyone's okay with. But if you don't like that, I want to hear your opinion, and because I don't want to just drop this campaign if people are really enjoying it. But as a DM, it's pretty taxing for me.
Gotcha. Honestly, I really just like playing D&D with you guys. So if we do just go ahead and do a different campaign, I'm cool with that. That being said, can I read the Curse of Strahd book then?
Yes, you absolutely can.
Okay, can I also look at the tarot cards?
Also what?
Can I look at the tarot cards?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
I've
just
told
because
that.
I was really excited for this campaign because it was specifically Curse of Strahd, but I do get where you guys are coming from, and honestly, I would just rather keep playing with you guys. But in that case, I would very much like to read what happens.
Yeah, no, 100%. That's totally fine. And I was really excited to run Curse of Strahd because of all how good things, the good accolades it has all over the place. But there's also lots of, and I can see where it's a lot of fun as a player. I can see where there's a lot of really cool things. But on the DM side of things, there's a lot of hand-wavy bullshit that I don't like, and a lot of loopholes where I'm like, what? Why? And there's an entire Reddit forum dedicated to Curse of Strahd and basically rewriting the whole thing to make it more believable and to fix some of these things. And I just don't want to have to patch together a whole bunch of Reddit threads to make a good campaign. If I'm going to go through all that work, I'd rather just do it, do my own rule, where I feel a little more invested. And the other cool thing I can do with Homebrew that I can't do with Curse of Strahd, Curse of Strahd is specifically built to disallow heavy player backstory, or character backstory, right? Because you're not with people you knew, mostly. You don't have families here, you don't have friends here, you basically won't have friends here, because the whole setting's designed to basically make you feel just despondent all the time, the odds are always against you. And so, I don't have any play with your backstories much. There's a couple little threads here and there, but nothing like I could do in a homebrew setting, which is one of the fun things to do between player and DM, right? Is to do the backstory stuff. And
do I
bring
get to see my kids again?
Right?
No, you're all dying in Barovia, but.
So are we rolling new characters?
It's up to you. So if it sounds like everyone is okay with going homebrew, so we can talk about the homebrew settings that I have options for here in a bit. But if I've misunderstood and anyone really wants to keep playing Curse of Strahd, please speak up now. But my understanding is that everyone's cool swapping it.
Can we just
play out the Strahd fucking shows up at the church we're at and takes that chick, and we just all go out in a fucking blaze of glory?
So I was thinking of actually setting up a battle between you guys and Strahd as sort of a finale. Just so I could, because like running Strahd is probably one of the funnest parts about being a DM for Curse of Strahd, because he's such a badass. And so going up against that, I'm fine to do, not tonight, because that requires some serious prep work to understand all the things Strahd can do. But I'd be happy to do that.
I think that'd be fun if like we just all kind of like, cool, you know, we kill this vampire dude and for some reason we all get fucking 50k EXP and we just go straight to fucking going at Strahd.
Unless he trips and impales himself on a church steeple, we're not killing him.
That's fine. Just to play out like just to play out the final encounter, just for shits and giggles. I think because that seemed to be like the big cheese, right? That was what we all wanted to do.
Like,
so I'd be fine. Like,
go ahead, Adam. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine either way. Like, I would just like to see like the blaze of glory, but if we just choose to move on to another campaign, I'm fine with that too.
My only caveat with that is that if we do play out and the encounter with Strahd, we can still keep the character we currently have rather than just permadeathing them.
Sure.
And just transport them over, because I mean basically it's just, let's see what happens if we get attacked by a level 15 vampire. The prediction is not well.
I don't have that many spells, guys.
Yeah,
I
so
don't
if you
think
guys
the-
want to bring your current characters into the new campaign, they will be characters that have never entered Barovia. So you can keep your backstory somewhat, depending on the campaign, right? There is a campaign, the one that I'm leaning most towards wanting to run is a homebrew, where I'll have to work heavily with you guys on your backstories because of the nature of the world. But a lot of your character can probably just get ported over and to some degree or another. But yeah, they will have never entered Barovia. That will have never existed.
Like, I'm
Do
fine
you
with
want us
all.
to go back down to a level 1, or can we stay at a level 3?
We'll probably start at level 3, because there's, especially if a lot of you guys are keeping your characters, there's not a lot of reason to reset you to level 1, right?
Okay.
There's like nothing new or fun for that for you guys for that. That's just playing through 3 levels you've already played through. So we'll probably. I'll have to think about it depending on what we decide on. Excuse me.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to
So,
determine
okay,
whether or
cool.
not, because I've already got an alt character, so if we're going fresh at level 1, I'll probably just switch to him. But if we're sticking where we're at, and I don't have to change any of the stats, I'll probably stick with the level 3 character. That's already ready to go.
I have a use for an alt character already, so I might go ahead and create them, and I'll give you the option of both. More people want to go from level 1 and start over, or if you find the other character far more fascinating, we can just level him up to catch up where he's supposed to be, whatever. But that way you get a couple of options, especially if one of them is like, I can't really think of any good way to work this into what I want to do with my own group.
Sure. Cool. So let's talk homebrew campaign sort of settings. To give me a better idea of what everyone's kind of looking for from their D&D.
So I'll be back in that loop in a minute.
I guess, what do you guys? I know some of you have only played a little bit, so you may not have, you might not have a lot of opinions on this sort of stuff yet. But if you do, let me know. What do you like most in your D&D? Do you like combat most? Do you like intrigue most? Do you like the social interactions, the exploring the world, the twists and turns, things like that? What do you guys like in your games?
I like the exploring and the role-playing, like the social interaction stuff.
Okay.
I just like killing shit in cool ways.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm definitely more like I'm into combat.
Combat faux show.
Amanda?
Oh,
Did we lose Amanda?
we might have. She sent me a text. What time was this? 26. Yeah, she said she'll be right back.
20 to 6 was a long
I'm
time
back.
ago.
7:26 was.
I'm
I
back.
think it's 20 till 6. I'm like, that was a while ago. You should probably respond to your girlfriend a little bit faster there, Josh, because...
Oh, he never will.
She knows me and still loves me.
We all do, Josh. So, Amanda, what I was asking... Did you hear my question?
No.
What I was asking was...
I didn't either.
What everyone likes out of their D&D. Josh and Adam like the combat, the fights, the killing cool shit. Jericho likes exploring the world and the role-playing side of things. Jason hasn't responded, so like there's a lot of pieces in D&D, and so to really build a good campaign that everyone enjoys, I just was trying to figure out what people like most about the games.
Well, so far, since this is my first D&D thing, I've just been enjoying learning about it. So really, whatever you guys do, I could probably follow along, but I haven't played enough to actually have that much of an opinion. I like turning into a dire wolf.
It's fair. It's a cool ability.
Yeah.
Jason, what about you? Do you have opinions?
As far as just like what kind of things we want to be able to do.
Yeah, like what do you enjoy most in your D&D games, right? Combat, roleplay, exploration, mystery solving, intrigue.
I like
Hey,
the idea of
Matt,
actually being
sorry
able
to
to like,
interrupt, guys. I was just letting you know I got a hold of Jamie and she's popping in.
cool. I like the role-playing aspect of it, like actually being able to create a character and then, try to work through what that character is. Combat's fun and all, obviously, but having the option of being able to do things outside of combat is also a lot of fun. As opposed to just, the answer to everything is just straight up murder. That's fine if you want to play, an absolutely murderous character, but at least having the option available of you can do things by being clever or, using your other abilities aside from just swinging a weapon.
Yep.
And seeing where that can take you, oh, look at that, we suddenly became the new, overlord of this realm somehow.
It's always fun when that happens. You just suddenly become a god. Holy shit.
I mean, if you play wizard, yes. Like, oh, look at this, I've got a spell that can, create and decreate dimensions. Neat.
What?
Honestly, in 5th edition, druids are the gods. High-level druids are ridiculous. Hell, I can't even kill a low-level druid.
Not for lack of
We
trying,
tried.
though.
Fucking surrounded and everything. She still survived. I'm not
Barely.
talking about that at all or anything.
Barely. I barely survived.
But you did.
This is a worthwhile attempt, Matt.
All right. We'll fill Jamie in when she gets in. But with what you guys just said, I think the homebrew setting that best warrants itself to me being able to build a game that is fun for everyone, including myself, is this setting that I've been working on and thinking about for the last couple of months, where you're essentially in the last surviving mortal city on the material plane. You face an apocalypse, which I can go into, and this city, through intense magical means, managed to defend itself and survive. But it is the last, basically imagine Earth just got completely wrecked and is now kind of filled with devils and demons and elementals and fae and undead creatures and things like that. So this city is sort of the bastion of, I say humanity, but like that means all the moral races, right? Elves, dwarves, gnomes, halflings, all the good stuff. The city's massive, right? It's 6 square miles, so plenty of opportunity for doing stuff inside the city. There are a million things to do, like if you're willing to brave the wilderness outside the city, because obviously it's a fucking disaster. That's sort of the synopsis of the setting I have in mind. If that sounds interesting to people. Hey, Jamie.
In that case, I want to change my character.
You're welcome to. Does anyone else have opinions?
Sounds like Fallout 4, but brought back to a high fantasy setting,
Yeah, something like that.
which is nothing wrong with that. Just
Yeah, it's certainly got some things. Jamie, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Hello.
Hola.
So to catch you up, I started off our session tonight with a question to the group of how much they're actually enjoying the Curse of Strahd setting itself, as opposed to just playing D&D in like a different setting or different campaign. I'm finding as a DM that Curse of Strahd is hard to run, it's hard to prep, and I just don't really like it. I don't have any investment in the setting. There's lots of like gaping holes in things that I feel like a drive to fill that I just can't because of the limitations of the setting itself, without just massively homebrewing things. And if I'm going to be massively homebrewing things, I'd rather just build my own campaign. So, so far, everyone, Jerica seems the most in love with the Curse of Strahd, but is totally fine switching campaigns. So I don't know how much I know you've played Curse of Strahd before. I don't know how much you really actually enjoy the setting itself, or if you are open to swapping out to a homebrew setting. And then I was just talking about the homebrew setting that I have in mind.
I mean, I've ran Curse of Strahd before, so I know both. I've done both. I know the holds you're talking about. So, I'm okay either way. It's a fun one shot, but if you're up to the task of homebrewing stuff, go for it. Like, power to you. It's awesome to do it.
I've done homebrew campaigns and I've done published setting campaigns, and what I found for both is that they both seem to be about the same amount of work. One of them is much more creative in that I get to create my own thing and be invested in my own world. One of them is much more like college textbook, memorize things and know the names of things and remember backstories and plots and things. That's at least been my experience. So
we wouldn't even be like in the Forgotten Realms, right?
No, this would be a totally homebrew setting.
I dig it. At this point, I feel like there's nothing I don't know about D&D, so if you've got something new, I have no problem starting at level 0.
Cool. I don't know what level you guys will be starting at. I literally just brought this to the group. I was planning on running a session tonight, but as I was finishing my prep work today, after work, I was like, I don't know if it's worth it. So that's why I asked everyone here, like, do you actually like the setting or just playing D&D? Cool. So well, I guess I'll pose the question, Jamie, as well, if I don't miss your important stuff. I asked everyone right before you got on what they enjoyed most about D&D, because, as you know, right, there's combat, there's role play, there's exploration, there's mystery, there's intrigue, there's, a ton of stuff you can bring into the game. So to make sure that I build a setting appropriate so that everyone actually, finds things they like in it, I wanted to find out what everyone's favorite things are. Do you have a favorite thing in D&D?
I like. Give me 1 second to think about it.
Yeah.
So in that case, Matt, since we kind of know what we're getting into, can we use tonight as like a campaign 0 or like a new campaign with session 0 and build our characters with each other?
I am totally fine with that. I'm happy to spend this time doing that. Talk about the setting. Explain the setting a little bit more to you guys. Give you all the in-world history that everyone, would know just by existing in this world. And at least what I have already built up. I will give a general warning that this is a new setting for me. I've only started thinking about it in the last couple of months. And it's weird in that it's the single city on a world. So there are things like the economy and just being like there are difficulties in planning a city that is the only city existing, right? So I will just warn you all now that this is sort of going to be like a play test of the setting, and we might run into a situation where you ask me a question and I'm like, fuck, I didn't think about that, right? Which is true of any homebrew, but I'm just especially concerned about it for I've never built a single city that's like the only place on Earth, where the rest of the world is a shit show. So I'm having a lot of fun thought experiments thinking about this and how does this city survive? How is food produced? How is waste eliminated? Where does the water come from? All these things. But I'm only one guy and only half a brain most days. So just fair warning that, don't be surprised at some point you go, Matt, how does that work? And I go, I don't know. And then I might have to backtrack some things. But that's a big caveat of setting up.
So if I want to run a middle management role with a focus in accounting in the city, the government, I'm going to have to really give you some time to prep for it.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you to roll a new character.
Matt, so I guess out of curiosity, just because, so to answer your question, I'm here for the acting and for the storytelling, so if you've got a whole new world that you want to pitch, I'm totally down for it. I guess to Jerica's point, if we spend today and use the session to create characters, my only request would be is that we have some general knowledge or ties to people in the party, because I've been playing with one group for almost 9 months, one whole baby now, and it's still very much distrusting party vibes, which is fine for the group, but I think it would be nice to get to role play with characters. If you guys are up for that, that would be my one request.
That is honestly, JD, one thing that I want out of you guys, my players, is that your characters really interact and role play together. I love that in game. It's hard to foster, especially in a setting like Barovia, where it's you are just brought here. You don't even fucking know each other. You're in a horrifying place. But yeah, this is a city where absolutely you all can know each other. You all can become close. I have plenty of methods that you guys have worked together as an adventuring party essentially in the past. Kind of like how you did that 2-shot for Jericho's birthday, right? So I have methods for that, and I would love that, honestly. So I'm happy to use this time as a session 0 as well and talk about the setting and your characters and your backstories and whatnot. But I'm not saying we're gonna go now and start next week or something. We've got plenty of time.
No.
I'm bringing this on everyone. So this is really an exploratory question from me to just see how the group wanted to go.
Yeah, no, I am. I just suggested that maybe we use this as a starting intro. If everyone, since you described the setting as kind of what Jason said, is kind of like Fallout 4. Maybe if people wanted to change their characters, it might give us a chance to configure the party, and then you would have plenty of time to go ahead and just build what you need to with knowing what we had together.
So, like, how big is this city, out of curiosity? Because it's the only one on Earth. And then, second question, why is it a shit show outside of it?
Cool.
Two
All
important
right,
questions.
so I will get into all of that. Before I go, does anyone have anything else they want me to know or to say to the group or anything like that? Otherwise, I'm happy to dive into the setting as I have it so far, what you guys are going to be looking at, the world as it stands, things like that.
As a just as a fun follow-up to Sebastian, he lost access to his god power because he chose not to kill you all.
That's
He
true.
practiced,
Mostly my
practiced
fault.
a religion of murder. So he liked you all well enough to give up access to his deity. Congratulations.
It's mostly my fault. It's mostly my fault.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any dirty secrets? I want to know.
So
Who's got it? Who's got it?
I guess if we're gonna be starting from scratch and going session 0, I will probably switch characters. At which point, I will let people know the archetype that I never told anybody except for Amanda because I owed it to her for something. I don't remember what it was.
For my birthday.
For your birthday. So I chose to. Let me see. Where is my character sheet? What is this officially called? I was a phantom. I had the ability to. My character walked he spent so much time killing people that he started skirting a very fine line between life and death. And I started to gain abilities such as the first one that I got at level 3, which was Wails from the Grave, which meant that if we had gotten, the only combat that we got in was the single guy, but had we been in an instance where there was multiple people, if I hit somebody with a sneak attack, I could then do Wails from the Grave and attack another person for half of my sneak attack damage.
Ooh, damn.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah, it was a very awesome sounding, and a lot of really cool techniques to it, and I was really excited about that one. But I was trying to save it for a point when we had a combat situation, and all of a sudden this fucking rogue is surrounding this other enemy in wails of death that is causing damage to him.
Nice.
So that was my dirty little secret that I was keeping from everybody.
Weird. My character's just a normal little girl who.
That is the secret, is that you consider her normal.
Yeah, I think she was pretty normal. You know, she just grew up in a remote place with her aunties, the nice swamp hags, and found out that when she was going to turn 13, they were going to do something to her, so she ran away from home and was hiding from them in the fogs of Barovia.
Oh, wow.
Matt, I want to know what the fuck was going to happen to me if I got 60 feet away from that finger thing.
Yeah, what were you going to do?
I was gonna fuck with him hard.
Oh, if only.
Details, man.
Jamie, the other thing that we're probably gonna do before starting the new campaign is we're gonna run the Strahd fight, just so everyone gets to see Strahd and experience the murderous intent of the ruler of Barovia.
Dig it.
So, all right. So, I have to show this off because this is awesome. So,
Wow.
most of you know my girlfriend Patricia. Jamie, you know her too. She was in the game. So, she actually handmade me this hand-bound journal with the Skyrim logo on it, and it has become Isn't that
Is that
cool?
what you
I'll let
got
you
for
see it.
Christmas?
Yeah. It's fucking amazing. And it's got watercolor proof paper, so I can even like paint on the paper if I want to for like maps and things. So,
Oh, cool.
Oh, that's so cool.
but that is actually where I'm writing all the notes for Stoya, which is the city that I'm about to talk to you guys about.
Nice.
So I figured I'd go grab that, because I have some reference notes in here that I might have to reference. Okay, so to give you some history, the city exists on a planet very much like Earth, on a continent that I haven't exactly decided, but the main issue that ended up causing this apocalypse was approximately 400-ish years ago. The barriers between all of the other planes of existence, the Hells, the Abyss, the Shadow Realm, the Realm of the Fae, the Elemental Planes, all of the barriers between those planes and specifically the Material Plane, which is the plane where the city exists and where most mortal life inhabits, those barriers broke down for some reason, rapidly, allowing these extraplanar entities easy access to the material realm, on this planet specifically. That turned the planet essentially into a giant extraplanar battleground, where the intent of those creatures was not to wipe out humanity, but it happened anyway, because they were just in the way. Think basically an entire population's worth of collateral damage. So that is the apocalypse that befell the world approximately 400 years ago. The city of Stoya lies in a mountain range, a coastal mountain range. It's about a half-mile inland from the coast, in a mountain range that is surrounded by very snowy forests. It also happens to sit on a nexus of magical ley lines of both arcane, divine, and natural magic. This made it a very popular place before the apocalypse for arcane users, divine zealots and practitioners, and those who were more druidic in nature and wanted to really get in tune with the natural world. It made a very popular place for them to all gather because these ley lines made accessing those things much easier. And so dealing with spells, dealing with nature, experimentation, study, all those things were much easier in this city, in the city of Stoya. So it was a bustling, popular city in its own right. As this apocalypse began, and as very rapidly within months, most of the population of the planet had been eradicated in massive battles between angels, devils, demons, elementals, fae, undead, all sorts of crazy things. The leadership of Stoya got together, and the arcane casters developed a way, using the power of the Nexus underneath them, to build an arcane dome to surround the city, force field basically, where the druidic, the natural casters, and some of the arcane casters and the divine casters and powers were pulled to pull magma out of the crust of the planet and to open planes to the planes of fire and the planes of earth, to form magma out of those planes and basically dump this magma over this dome. So it was very, very thick and just covered the entire city of Stoya. Eventually, when that magma cooled, the force field was released because it wasn't something that could have been maintained indefinitely. The dome remained, though its structure was a little tenuous because magma doesn't cool evenly. It wasn't like a nice concrete dome that was nice and even and had great tensile strengths and all that. So eventually they had to start using the same mechanisms to grow magma pillars from the ground of the city up and to support the weight of the dome above it. That has led to basically the destruction of the city as it was 400 years ago and to what it is now, which is functionally subterranean, where a lot of the structures, the buildings, the day-to-day goings-on of the citizens takes place within these 5 or 6 massive stalagmite towers that support the dome over the city. And the dome itself is a 6-mile diameter, so it's huge. So it's not exactly 6 square miles in total, but it's close. The dome rises 3 miles up, and so do these stalagmite towers. So this is going to be a very vertically inclined campaign, at least as far as the city goes. The whole city is built mostly vertically because that's the space they have. Each of these stalagmites is a 1/2 mile to 3/4 of a mile wide in diameter. And it's, various parts have been hollowed out to be shelters, homes, businesses, things like that. Over time, this population has adopted the ideals of reincarnation, where their purpose in life as a mortal creature is to live a life dedicated to the survival of the mortal races as best they can. If they do that, then they get reincarnated up through the classes. Essentially, that's commoner, right? Everyone kind of starts off as a commoner, lives pretty commoner lives. If you're a good enough commoner and you do the best you can with what you got, particularly when it comes to ensuring the survival of the races, then when you die, you can get reincarnated into a actual classed character, which is not the term they use in world, but it's the in-game term, or it's the mechanical term, right? So that's where you guys are. You are all classed characters, right? Whatever class you choose. And most of the population does not have that. Most of the population is a commoner. Yes, Adam.
Do they believe this, or is this actually a thing?
Both.
Okay. I mean, that's what I wanted to know. So this is, if you die and you're a good enough thing at your previous cast, you move up to the next cast.
Yeah. So, that's what everyone believes. That is the stricture. That is the teaching. And so far, it seems to have worked out pretty well. Reincarnation doesn't bring you back with memories, so proving that people are who they were can be difficult. But there have certainly been people who have recovered their memories from a past life and lended credence to this philosophy. In the other way, though, if you're a terrible person and you are basically a criminal and you undermine any of the workings of the city that is protecting the last of the mortal races, you can go the other way and you can get reincarnated into lesser classes of animals, or worst, even into the ranks of the demons and devils, which obviously is a bad thing.
I think it'd be worse to be reincarnated as an animal. Then you become food. At least as a demon, you have a chance to fight.
If you're a demon, you're food for just a bigger demon. So then the character classes, which you guys are, if they live a good enough life, they can be reincarnated into more powerful character classes, or at the same level of character class, and you do that enough times to eventually where you have done a good enough job of protecting mortality, essentially, that you get reincarnated into one of the outer planes, where you can finally escape the material plane, this battleground, and your soul can then escape to you know, the world's versions of heaven and paradise and things like that. So that is the general world with which you guys find yourself.
So, quick clarification, because, and just to, so like in the Forgotten Realms, you have like the upper and the lower planes. So, comparatively, it would be as if like the material plane somehow fell and like crashed into the lower planes, and you can escape by going someplace, going to like an upper plane that was somehow like absolved of the chaos.
Correct. Yeah, the material plane is basically where the chaos has been drawn to, because it's the easiest place for all of these extraplanar entities to access, right? It's hard for devils to get into heaven, right? It's hard for angels to get into hell, sort of thing. It's easy for them all to come to the material plane, so that's where they came, and that's where they kind of wage their eternal struggles now, which has led to the world becoming an absolute shit show.
What is like the demographic of this main city? Like, are there any races that are like non-existent or completely taboo, or is there like an obvious dominant race for any particular reason?
It's a heavy mix. There isn't really a wide dominant race. I am thinking that tieflings are probably not around. I think they've probably been exterminated as being seen as like a part of the apocalypse that occurred, rightfully or wrongly so, most likely wrongly so. But when you're the last city on Earth and your entire world has been destroyed, lashing out at anything that's similar to the creatures that are ruining it. I haven't decided on that aspect of the world yet, but I that's what I'm leaning towards, is like, at least tieflings probably don't exist. At least not natural born.
Well, it's a good thing I'm changing my character then.
What's the... I mean, do we know much about the political structure of the town, like, or of the city? Is it like democracy? Is it ruled by an oligarch? Is it ruled by an authoritarian?
The city is ruled mostly, it's a theocracy, right? It's ruled by religion.
Okay.
Where the religion is, you know, pray to really whichever of the pantheon you want, and serve the continued survival of the mortal races, in whatever capacity that God best lends to. So over the majority of the populace, the theocrat, the archbishop, essentially rules. But the arcane casters, the divine wielders, and the druids, they all work in conjunction. So it's kind of like three separate branches of government, because the city can't exist without all three of them. So all three of them kind of exert their power. But the archbishop is sort of seen as the majority leader, where like the leadership of the wizards will take over organization, punishment, things like that of the arcane casters, and the druids handle their own, right? They handle the natural wielders.
Okay, so it's like it's a structured polytheistic style government, and there's not like one dude who like decrees everything. It's kind of this joint effort.
Yeah, day to day mostly falls under the archbishop, because he has sort of like the dominion over everyone's souls, and so particularly like the commoners mostly rely on him for protection of their souls and like guidance as to how to act and how to move forward as their soul and reincarnation. But they also know that they need the wizards and the sorcerers to maintain certain things about this city, certain protections, certain other things. And the druids are needed a lot for their natural abilities, right? Their ability to grow plants that feed the population and to use natural defenses in defending against any incursions that come from outside the dome. Because things do occasionally find their way into the dome, looking for any number of things. So the classes that you guys have, your role, and all of the people here, the NPCs that have classes, all of your roles are to defend the city against incursions that may come in, against any threats that might be in the city, weird things that are happening, guarding patrols that go out to acquire certain resources. Falls to you guys. You guys are sort of like the security force. All the class characters act as the security force for the city in their own way of protecting mortality and the mortal races, and then eventually, reincarnating into something better in the future.
So that kind of leads into my next question. What is civilian life like in the commoner life like in this environment? Are we a starving, huddled mass that is basically existing off of, yeast and water? Or is it like, obviously it's not a thriving society because it's post-apocalyptic, but like, are people well fed, or is there like not enough resources to go around?
Resources are tight, but not near starvation level. Because of the druids specifically, and their ability to foster growth and crops and good harvests, even in a dome, like even in a subterranean tunnel. Food exists and is fairly plentiful. The government essentially provides food free of charge. They cover that, and it basically grows anywhere it can. The druids are tasked with a lot of like vertical gardens, essentially all throughout the stone or the city's residences are vertical gardens of various things. Some things that survive in caves naturally, so like a lot of the diet is fungal and mushrooms. Protein primarily comes in the form of insect protein, as opposed to like beef or chicken, because there's not enough land space to have those sorts of livestock. So like the commoners, they don't live a great life. They're not, it's not phenomenal. It's not like a great time to be a commoner, but they're not on the brink of starvation. Everyone is well fed. Everyone is provided shelter in some form or another, as part of this city just kind of surviving. And then a lot of them are doing the non-arcane things that are needed to maintain the city and to grow the crops and harvest the food and take care of the waste and all the various things. Because while magic is powerful, there are limitations to its availability and its resources. And so the magic wielders, arcane, divine, and natural, do what they can, and they've managed to strike a pretty good balance between using magic to enhance the capacity of this city, and the commoners then go about more common tasks like harvesting and things like that.
Okay. That's pretty much it for me. That's all I really needed to know.
If so there's obviously like this like primary religion, but if there are other religions or other belief systems, I mean, even like as far as like not atheism, but just what's the word I'm looking for? Where you don't believe in anything. There's a word for it. But regardless, yeah, what does that look like, I guess? Or what would those look like? And how would those be treated by this society that has pretty universal belief of a specific religion? Or does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So agnostics do exist. They're people generally who are tired of it and just want out, and they don't want to be stuck in the cycle of, live a good life, die, hopefully come up, and then maybe live a bad life and come down, and like they just don't want it. Um, it's hard to be an atheist or an agnostic in the world of D&D where like paladins and clerics just exist. But there are people who are just kind of so over the world they live in that is what they believe. And the general opinion of those people is sadness, right? People feel bad that they have gotten so despondent, and then that means that, they're probably going to fall in the caste system. But they're not hunted, they're not hated. They're just, people occasionally will try to cheer them up, talk to them about it, show them the light essentially, but they're not like in prison. It's not criminal. It only becomes a crime if you start doing things that negatively affect the city or the survival of people, right? So obviously murder, very frowned upon. Like it's a major no-no, because it's in direct violation to the ideal of survival. But if you're an agnostic and you just live your life and you go about doing your job and you harvest those crops and you take care of your neighbors and whatever, then to everyone else, you're doing fine. And whether or not, like, it doesn't matter if you believe it or not, it's happening. As long as you act good enough, that's fine.
Do we happen to have a list of jobs commonly seen in your city?
Not yet. I haven't gotten that far.
Okay.
But you have typical trades people, basically. Or you'll have blacksmiths, and you'll have what's the term? People who whip up like not like magical potions, but like tonics and things for scrapes and bruises. Because while there is healing about, right, there's plenty of divine magic about for healing. It's kind of reserved for the really important cases, because like if the population starts dropping drastically, right, that's really hard to recover from. So the city makes sure that people survive with method of ability, but they have to ration out the magical resources to do it. So they rely on the more commonplace solutions where they can, right? You stint a broken arm, you drink fluids and stay home if you have a fever, things like that. So standard sorts of jobs exist. I don't have like an exhaustive list. A lot of it is cultivation of the various foods that are grown throughout the city and in other places. There is basically a natural biome underneath the city that was carved out a couple of 100 years ago after the dome had been put in place, where it's sort of this natural mushroom subterranean forest that a lot of like the mushrooms can be harvested from. It's also got its own little biome, so there are some creatures that have just kind of made their home there, and so harvesting out there can be a little dangerous. So you guys might be tasked to do some of that, or to at least accompany a party to do that. Things like that.
I was going to ask, in that case, are we considered, because I know you said part of our job is to protect the city from the things that come in. Are we like everyone else in class and have a particular job or role that we perform for the city and then switch out for like security duty? Or is it that we are just tasked with the protection of the city?
You're mostly tasked with the protection of the city and the protection of the people. That lends itself to a wide variety of tasks. You're not always needed, right? There's not always something going on that requires a security force to accompany it or to do. So this is a campaign that also lends itself to downtime things, where I might say at the end of a session, you guys are going to have, a couple of days or a week of downtime where you're not going to be needed. So you can go do things within the city, explore it, build your own skills and whatever. I know there are downtime roles in D&D. I'm just not terribly familiar with them. So, things like that are going to come up.
Does that mean I own a home?
You, no one owns anything. It's all city owned as far as property goes.
So like
Um,
communism?
Yeah. There's a lot of communism going on. Prices on necessities
Communism.
are fixed. The economy is a lot of barter, right? There's a fair amount of barter that goes on, but there is a gold standard where gold can be exchanged for goods, and that's enforced by the government. And necessities have a fixed gold price attached to them. So your basic foods, like if you're not just grabbing a vegetable out of the garden, that's just public space. If you're going to like a shopkeep to get something different, then those prices very well might be restricted and limited by the government. Specialty items, like if you, for instance, have like there's rangers that go out into the mountains outside the dome and risk their lives to hunt whatever game might still exist out there, whether it be your normal deer or whether it be extraplanar game that has found its way here and is edible. They can bring that back to the city and sell it, and the city doesn't rein that in because it's a luxury item. And so, if people are willing to and have the ability to pay, they will. But they do make sure that everyone has all of the necessities. So they give you a shelter. So you all will have a shelter given to you, your own individual home, as part of the city's security force.
Are there decorations? Can I decorate this home?
You can.
Do we get to have like a little map with our home, so we can fuck around in our downtime?
Your own little map?
Yeah.
Sure.
So out of curiosity, with everything being pretty well controlled by the government, or this like theocracy at large, where they're pretty much just making sure that everybody has what they need, but there's still a ranking system both based off like birth and then merit, like what you put into the society. Is there like some kind of like renown system effectively where at level like 1 and 2 it's like, oh, you're a peon, but then there's like these like paladins or knights, or to your point, like super successful group of rangers, and they're well known for their feats, and so like and they're allotted more things. Or it's like, could I walk into like the theocrat's house and it looks just like mine? Like how does that look? Is everything pretty much equitable, or is it really what you put to get out?
Yeah, things are not equitable. They do make sure that everyone has what they need, but the higher in the class system you are, the more work you do, the better connections you have. Kind of lends itself to the work that you do for the city. You do find better accommodations towards the top. You do find much more luxurious things. To that point, while the vast majority of the citizens and the commoners exist in these stalagmites that are supporting this dome, the luxury, the leadership, the government buildings, the wealthy of the city, they exist in a second dome that is suspended upside down from the roof of the main dome in between the stalagmites, that has a magical enchantment that reverses the gravity inside of that little dome. So they are separate and apart from the vast majority of the city for various reasons, including security. If the city ever does get breached, they have their own separate little fortified area they can defend and plan from. But also, they don't need to be that close to commoners on a regular basis. So that is one of the very unique things about this city, is that's where the uppity-ups and the leadership are. And it's presumed to be very nice.
Part 2 of my question, just because I'm really interested in equity, no matter what campaign we're talking about. So seeing as like this is a very like magically oriented society where you've got like high emphasis on like what arcane, divine, and natural casters can do, for like true martial casters, in many ways are they viewed as like commoners who have like gone above and beyond, like based off merit, where it's kind of like, well, nobody expected this of you, but seeing as you can swing a sword good enough to stand by somebody else, like I guess you can join our brigade or things like that. Like, is there like a real like, underdog story as far as like martial classes go?
Let's see.
Here comes
There's,
Jamie
like,
with the thinking
fighter-
questions.
Well, I'm just asking, like, if like you pick a fighter class, like, do you expect wizards to thumb their nose at you because they're like, I maintain like the fortitudes of this place. You carry a big stick. I mean,
Yeah, no. Short answer to your question is no. The difference between a level 1 fighter and a level 0 commoner guard are drastic. So just by being able to swing a sword the way a level 1 fighter can, and have the technique of a level 1 fighter, means that you are in the same class as the arcane casters. There are, as there have always been, there will always be casters who find themselves to be better than others. But that is not a general opinion of the martial classes. Monks, fighters, barbarians, all of them are recognized for their difference between a commoner and them. Even at level 1, it's pretty clear when that starts to show up in a person. It's clear that they are not just a regular schmo. They are an upper class, and so that's when they start getting brought into that realm, that world, and brought under the jurisdiction of the security force.
so like are babies like pooped out into a conveyor belt and like they have a special marking or a special test or like an avatar thing where they select for specific toys? Like how is like if you've got a society based off reincarnation, a baby is born to a commoner family in like the dretches of a stalactite column, how do you know that they grew up to be a fighter? How are they given those opportunities to truly hone their skills and prove that they're a class entity?
Part of your job as the security force is to keep your eye out for exceptional individuals. The population at large also does that. And it can, sometimes it doesn't show up till later in life. There isn't like you hit adolescence and all of a sudden you just have an amazing attack with a sword, or you can magically read runes, or you have this gift for being a paladin or a cleric. It's as you are growing up, as you're living life, except you start showing exceptionalism that is very apparent to regular folk, and that word spreads pretty rapidly to those in charge. There are, for the classes that you sort of make sense that they've been chosen, right? Like the person chose to go and want to be a fighter, or want to be a cleric, or want to be a wizard. Then basically that person tried that, and excelled at it, and so it became clear that they are a classed character, and so of a higher caste. Others, like sorcerers, obviously sorcerers just by their class are born with their abilities and didn't really get a choice. They can choose not to try to grow their powers, and instead, you have a level 1 sorcerer and a level 1 fighter, you multi-class because you wanted to be a fighter instead. Does that make sense?
Kind of.
Population growth is obviously important. They have to keep it under control to a certain extent, or they can't just go crazy. But they also want to make sure that population is at least consistent and that as many class characters are born as possible. To that effect, there is a what's the word? There is a
Do we get a special tax cut for having families as class characters?
Do you get a what?
Tax cut for having class characters being born in your family?
No, you don't. Other than just like they're well cared for. There is a sect, that's what I'm looking for. There's a sect of priestesses that their entire duty is to ensure that pregnancies happen and that the pregnant women are well cared for and their children are birthed without issue, to ensure the population continues to cycle and to help encourage the birth of higher class characters or people. There has never been found a link biologically that having your mother or father be a fighter or sorcerer or whatever lends you to being one. There's no link that says, two class characters have a child that's, twice as likely to be one. The chosenness of having the exceptionalism in you is, for all intents and purposes, random. It can't be controlled. So the city, these priestesses sort of grew out of that being found out, and now they're just fostering as many as children as they can to make sure that the cycle of rebirth continues. Further lending credence to the reincarnation philosophy, that it isn't your blood from your mother and father, it's the soul from the past life that grants the exceptionalism needed to further extend into the class system.
Okay. Well,
So what's the difference
that's
between working as a
shit.
security agent and being in the military conceptually? Is there a difference?
See, this is why
Classes.
Jamie's got all the questions.
So
It's just your
No.
acceptable. Like, you have commoners who are sort of like guards, basically, but then you have the security force, which are class characters, in mechanics terms.
and who takes responsibility for honing the skills of class characters? Is that the theocracy, or are there individual sects that make these specializations and recruit those who show any kind of exemplary abilities, or test those who show exemplary abilities to be well, does that make sense? I'm still caught on how do you know if somebody's awesome? Because
Is
Yeah,
it
that makes
based on
sense.
the United States education system?
is there a CSAP or something?
Not formally. They don't have a test that they apply to everyone. They do have biannual festival challenges, essentially, where a lot of the games are geared toward showing exceptionalism from people that have it, so they can be identified. And once they're identified, it depends on sort of the exceptionalism that they're shown or that they display and what their interests are. Exceptionalism is moldable. So if you show, extreme athletic prowess, then you can sort of use that prowess. And if that child wanted to be more of a wizard, then they would work with the wizards to learn that ability. Sorcerers are, of course, the exception. But if they don't want to be a sorcerer, if they don't want to hone and grow their innate powers, then they can point that exceptionalism somewhere else. And they can go be a fighter, and they can train with the fighters, or they can train with the paladins, or they can rage with the barbarians. or they can go focus on, nature with the druids and become more in tune with the natural world. So it's mostly when person, it's not necessarily a child, I keep saying that, but like people can sort of develop this exceptionalism late in life. They can be in their 30s, 40s, 50s, especially if they're like the longer lived races, dwarves, elves. They could not show exceptionalism until they're, over a century old. But once it's shown, then it's pretty noticeable, particularly if they've lived a long time and all of a sudden they can do things they couldn't do before. And then they go and seek the people who can mold that exceptionalism and direct it into whatever class they want to go into.
One more question. Two more
You're
questions.
good.
I don't think there's 18, maybe like 9. As far as like punishment, because you mentioned that like, yes, death is taken very seriously, but considering like in general, the obligation to duty that everybody has and the like the severity of the situation at large, are many crimes, if not most crimes, treated like capital punishments? Like, it's like, for example, if you steal from others or you do things,
No, it's actually
bad, like be exiled.
Yeah, so it's actually the opposite. Because the survivability of the mortal races is paramount, a lot of crimes go ignored if they are committed and they're not egregious to the city or to a person. Petty crimes are mostly ignored unless it becomes a constant problem, and especially if it is a constant problem and begins growing in its severity. Then exile is a very common punishment. Eventually, because it's a death sentence, right, to be exiled from the city. So they may not kill you, but they're just going to send you out to die. And it's rare that it needs to happen, but occasionally it happens. But like, people are people, and dwarves are dwarves, and these mortal races have anger, they have pride, they have jealousy. So even though the vast majority of the population, the vast majority of the time, believes in doing good for the betterment of their own soul and for the selfish reason of trying to reincarnate themselves later, crimes do happen. You have people who are the agnostics, who don't really believe it and so don't care, and so yeah, they're going to swipe something from someone else, or they're going to lie, or you have people who do believe in the reincarnation, but in the heat of anger or jealousy or whatever, they commit a crime and they, throw down. They get drunk and there's a bar brawl, right? But because the ideal of survivability, of mortality is paramount, a lot of times the theocracy, who handles most of that, they sort of have an opinion of no harm, no foul. Or especially if that person has a valuable trade, right? If they're a spectacular blacksmith, they're much more likely to be given leniency than if they're not. And if they're just, all they do is harvest, crops, then, they might look a little bit more favorably on the blacksmith than on the, crop harvester or things like that. So you do see, what's the word?
Favoritism?
Favorites.
Favoritism?
You do see, what?
Favoritism?
Yeah, you do see favoritism that way. And you see it a lot with the security forces, right? Where the security force, the people in the security force, characters like you guys that have classes, it's sort of this dual-edged sword where you're very important to the survival of the city. And so if you commit crimes, they are, you're going to get your hand slapped, you're going to get talked to, you're probably going to get, depending on your order, or whoever's in charge of you, various things. But like, they can't like necessarily just pull you out of the line of duty, because there aren't enough of you to go around. So it's a challenge, but it's also balanced out somewhat by most of these people are not power hungry. most of them understand their duty, and that they also believe that if they want, like, they're close to like the top of them, so they're almost there. So they work really hard to just get over that edge and either enter into the higher echelon of the class system, or to maybe even get out of the rat race entirely and reincarnate to the higher planes and not have to worry about it ever again. So the vast majority of the security force, at least, you don't have issues with. And when it comes to commoners, you know, like, there's not a lot you can do. So until it becomes either a consistent problem or a real severe problem, it's kind of just, you know, slap on the wrist, don't do it again type deal.
Okay.
You could also be
Amazing that if you're prolific enough thief that you can reincarnate as a rogue.
Yeah. Now, that's not to say that, like, there aren't groups that don't believe, right? There are groups of agnostics and atheists that don't believe in this, that think it's ridiculous, and they're not worried about their souls. And so they try to get away with whatever they can and just not get caught and not worry about it, because they're not worried about their soul, and the only thing they're worried about is getting caught. And even that's not really a major problem so long as they're not caught a lot. So you do have, you know, occasional problems with that, but as a generality, it's not a big deal, and they're a very warning heavy system. All right, Jamie, you've got 8 more questions. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm thinking. So how long ago did this like planar collision happen? Like, are we like within some of the player characters' lifetime a couple hundred years ago? And as a result, like, you're looking at various types of like races. Do many of those like racial characteristics of like dwarves and elves and things still apply, or are you kind of more adapted to the identity of this surviving city?
No. So the apocalypse was about 400 years ago. So some of the longer lived races could have been around and seen society as it was. If you got particularly long lived, you know, dwarves and elves, I think, can live that long. Gnomes mostly can. I don't think halflings can. So the vast majority of people really didn't live that long ago, particularly because mostly they died if they were from then. So
They
because
just
everyone
die.
right? So yeah, it was only 400 years ago, so it's within the realm of possibility that there are a couple of people that still exist that witnessed it, or that at least knew a society before this. But in general, not a lot.
Okay.
If there was like a notable one in the city, what would that look like?
A notable what?
Like a notable point of conflict. I mean, in many ways, I mean, this place kind of sounds, despite what's going on outside the dome, like a utopia. There's not really a lot of like, from like, I guess, the 10,000 foot view, there's not a lot of like power buying, not really a lack of resources, despite what you would expect. Crime isn't taken like, it's not like crime is even taken like exceptionally seriously. I mean, what schisms would exist in this place that would be notable?
You broke up. What exists in this place that would be notable?
Schisms. Schisms. That's a real word, I think.
Oh,
Yeah.
schism. Yes. On the surface, there aren't a lot, right? Mostly people are just trying to live, and living just requires kind of doing the same things over and over again. The druids all know to go water the crops and ferment the soil and nurture, you know, the plants that are needed to, and the animals that are needed to make the city survive. the arcane users are in charge of the automatons and the undead that handle the work that needs to get done, but there aren't enough people for it. The divine handle the connection to the gods that still exist and attempting to guide the population, comfort them, give them hope, give them strength. And so, I think it would be very easy for the people in this city to kind of fall into a routine, and that's just sort of it. And you try to do your routine to the best of your ability for your own soul's sake. There are certainly schisms between the classes, right? Because there is a wealth distribution problem. Like, your needs are met, but clearly the security force folks live better than you do as a commoner, and definitely the bureaucrats and higher ups live way better than you do in that weird upside down dome thing. So, there's definitely contention that exists there. And there are the forays from creatures that are outside the dome that make it inside the dome. That obviously are a major problem. Disease is a huge concern in the city, right? Trying to make sure that any signs of disease are met with very strict quarantines, and waste is taken care of appropriately. The deceased are taken care of appropriately and rapidly to prevent the city from quickly succumbing to a plague of any kind. So, we have issues like that concern. And then there are forays that have to occur outside the dome to acquire resources that can't be magically created inside of the dome. Does that make sense?
Yeah, what does technology look like? Is everything pretty much medieval style kind of technology, or somewhere in between, like, okay.
Yeah, it's medieval style. Obviously magically bolstered.
Is it more common to find a mechanical solution for something or a magical solution?
That depends on the urgency of the problem. If
Just
it
in
is
general, like, elevators and the like, are they more likely to be rope and pulley systems, or are they more likely to be magical in nature? Being stalactites, elevation is going to play a pretty big role in this.
Yes. So you have both, where they have dedicated magical resources to the best of their abilities to handle the problems that exist in a vertical society. So if you need to get way up on a stalagmite to get to a sector, then there are pathways that are magically imbued to basically be a spider climb path, where you can walk vertically up the stalagmite and get to the district you need to go, instead of walking around 3 miles worth of vertical stairs to get to the top. So you have the big issues like that are solved magically, but because magical resources are limited, mechanical options are used whenever possible.
Why do people... Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to ask, why do people typically go outside the dome, just for game hunting? Like, what are the motivations? What kinds of... do people go outside the dome? And is that different from being security?
Sort of. So people who go outside the dome are lunatics, or they're gathering resources that can't be acquired inside the dome. So, I mentioned that there are rangers that go out and hunt the nearby wilderness for whatever they can find and bring back and sell as whatever resources that creature that they caught might have. If it's just the meat, because it's a unique, sort of a luxury, then they do that. If it's got a valuable hide, then they do that. There are occasional forays that are guarded by a security force to procure gold, because gold isn't readily available in the dome and is needed not only for the economy but also to handle a lot of arcane magics, right? Need gold or gems of some sort for the spells. And so you have to make forays out to do that. There's not space really to grow trees, so you have to make forays out to the forest to get wood and fell trees and bring them back for whatever you might need wood for. So generally, going outside the dome, rarely done, but occasionally it needs to happen for resources, and mostly that's why people leave the dome, is in search of a resource they need, or the city needs.
That is going to be us.
Aside from the belief in reincarnation as a major thing, what does religion look like inside of this place? Like, are the normal pantheons worshipped? Does it have its entirely new set of gods?
Normal pantheon still worshipped. Just the focus of all religion points towards the survival of the mortal races, right? So depending on the god, it looks different depending on the god. Really, any god that doesn't have any issues with the survival and growth of the races is fine. Obviously, worship of evil gods is shunned, mostly because if you're an evil god, you're generally anti-society, anti-life in various ways. But all the normal good gods fit into that somehow.
As far as character creation, standard skill array, roll, or point buy, do you have a preference?
Point buy is fine.
When you're reading a character background, what if anything would you be looking for as a DM? Is there like definite questions that you want us to answer or to address?
There will be. I don't have those yet, but they certainly exist.
Okay, so I think I want to go ahead and be a sorcerer with the draconic bloodline.
Great.
So that's what I'm going. Oh, and it's also blue, so that's lightning damage.
Matt, are we able to port over the character sheets from one game into another on Roll20?
I don't know. Jamie, do you know that?
You can. I've never done it before though, so the actual how is unfamiliar.
But if I already have a character sheet created for my character, it can just be moved over to the new game. I don't have to scrap it and then recreate it in the new game, right?
I don't think so. I as long as the DM is the same in both, I think that you can.
Well, we will have to see.
But the
If
DM
not,
has to do it for you.
if not, I took down all the information I had on it, so I can just throw it back into a new one if we need to. But I thought I would see if we could, if that was a possibility first.
What class are you? Just out of curiosity.
I have a Dragonborn fighter. This is what I'm going to be running with.
Are there any mines or anything underneath this city, I would assume?
Not that have been found. So it's possible that one exists, but it's not in use.
Interesting.
And then keep in mind, this is a coastal mountain range as well, that you're only about a half-mile in from the coast. So there is a path out of the dome that leads towards the ocean, where ocean things occur, fishing, for example. So if you want to play, I think there's a sea folk race that you can play if you want. I don't know what the mechanics of it are, but it exists, and you guys will certainly be doing some ocean adventuring at some point. Or at least can. You can always choose not to.
I just love the oceany type things.
Oceany type things.
You're by a coast where oceany type things happen.
Josh, what color are you?
White. Not going to be a white one. So I am Frost. Which sounds like it works out really well, because you said the forest around here was snow covered, right?
Yep, sure is.
Good. Then my resistance to cold damage will come in handy, I assume.
Can't hurt anything.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely not.
I know you mentioned tieflings are kind of wiped out. Are there other half-breed races? Asmar, Furbolg, all those?
Asmar, yep. Asmar are okay, because they're half celestial, so that's fine. They wouldn't have been hunted. Other, I don't know them off the top of my head, so I'd have to do it on a case-by-case basis.
Anything that's not of fiend ancestry, though, is probably going to be at least not hunted if it does show up.
Probably, yeah. Does anybody else know what they're going to do?
Oh, like I said, I'll create a second character, and you can choose which one you like the feel of better for your setting.
I just realized how many of you have J names. It's 4 J's and 2 A's.
We like our variety.
Amanda, do you think you're sticking with your druid?
Yeah, I think so.
And you're a half elf? Or
Yeah.
a full elf?
No, I'm a full elf. Adam is a half.
Hey, Matt.
Yes.
I'm gonna be a rogue.
You know your race?
400-meter dash?
Ha!
I don't. Probably I mean, most likely human or half elf, if I had to guess.
Dwarf.
Okay.
Go dwarf.
Just let me know when you've nailed it down.
Okay.
Adam, what about you?
I'm gonna need a little bit more time to think about it. Mainly because I'm trying to decide if I want to bring Sebastian across or not. Probably not. So I just need a chance to look at like races and stuff like that. But I'll probably play a either a paladin or a bard.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I just want to be a little more. I don't want to make the mistake of going for a close range or a ranged paladin when all of my skills are melee.
Yeah.
I mean, you did have a Dragonborn Bard at one point.
Yeah, see, I was thinking of bringing. Was that Steve? I think that was Steve.
No,
right?
no, Steve was your rogue who had a robe and wizard's hat.
I kind of like the Dragonborn character. I might.
Your
do that. Yeah.
your Dragonborn Bard was the one that
He played vegetable instruments.
yeah, he
Yeah.
played vegetable instruments and then tried to launch a lightning bolt down a cave and didn't realize that it was a wide thing, or it wasn't a wide thing, it was just a beam.
Yeah.
And woke up the entire goblin horde in the cave.
Good times.
Yeah.
Are we still waiting on something from me, or?
Nope, just general. If there's any more questions or anyone wants to talk more about the characters or the character design of the party.
I mean, I don't really have much. Like I said, I'm probably gonna retool. I think. Do you have the character sheet for that Dragon Bard, Matt? I think it's. You probably have it in your D&D box thing.
Yeah, because I think you made a one of the paper sheets out for him, so it's probably somewhere here in the house.
It's possible. I don't know if I've kept it this long, but if I do, I'll send it to you.
Yeah, can you just look and see if you have that? And if you do, then I'll probably rejigger that guy and go for that.
Rejigger.
Are we all gonna be a small family of dragons?
I'm down for this. I'm down for a ragtag group of theocratic bastard dragons.
Yay!
I'm staying my same character.
They
Except for that-
hadn't
Turn it into a
becoming a Dragonborn, but
And
Maybe I'll
and-
research a little
and-
bit more.
You can shapeshift into a dragon, can't you? That's good enough.
They fly, so I can't until I'm level 3 or 8, something like
I
that.
don't think you can even do it then. I don't think they count as the beast you're about to shape into.
Matt, quit it! You just stop, okay? You keep on ruining my dream.
Siege
Yeah,
is
it's
like
cool.
Drake instead. They're a flightless dragon.
Just be a Gila monster.
Yeah.
Komodo dragon.
Komodo dragon, there you go.
Gonna run a Komodo dragon across the ground.
Fair.
Now, do all reincarnated people, do they always start out joining the security forces and then they can move up from there, assuming they survive long enough and develop their skills further? Or do some get to go straight into upper middle management, all that fun stuff?
No, upper middle management's all hoity-toity, high-level folks. If you are exceptional enough to have a class, you are just assumed to be part of the security force, and it's not exactly a requirement, but it's damn close.
If you want the benefits that come with being, skilled up, then you need to do your part.
Yeah, and if you show exceptionalism and choose not to use that for the good of the city by joining the security force, then you kind of get shunned by everyone around you, and you get visited a lot by bureaucrats trying to convince you otherwise.
That sounds enjoyable.
Good times, good times.
Basically, Jehovah's Witnesses is the government.
That's it. That's what we're... Oh, God. I hope none of us gets really injured because we can't do blood transfusions.
Hey, babe.
Luckily, most healing in D&D does not involve blood transfusions.
This is also true.
Unless you're one of the rare parties who forgoes all magical treatments and solely relies on that one dude who has a medical skill.
Matt, pretty much races in players plus Xanthars, right? Or Volos.
Jamie, say that again?
As far as races goes, it's players, Xanathars, and Volos, or do you want to limit us to any one or any specific books? I'm assuming Eberron is out.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know them off the top of my head. I'm happy to basically allow any of the races. I know Tieflings are almost certainly going to be out.
Eberron's Warforged.
Honestly, Warforged kind of makes sense for the setting. So I'm not opposed to it.
As long as there's a method of producing them.
Right, and in the city, it certainly makes sense. I've never run with the Eberron stuff, so I don't know anything about it, other than Warforged exists. Jamie, if there's a race from one of those books that you want to be, just let me know, and it'll probably be fine. As long as it wasn't a race that was probably hated because of their association with the creatures that cause this apocalypse. Probably fine.
Okay.
Why does what suck so much, Adam?
Why does work shit have to suck so fucking much?
Sort of what makes it work and not fun.
Are there clear-cut metrics for like promotion for the Risen, or is it more like kind of at the whimsy of the bureaucrats who run everything?
Very much at the whimsy.
Cool.
All predicated on your acts of, continuing the city and protecting the city and, promoting the survival of all the, members of the city.
Sure, but I mean, it's a very exclusive club at the top, and you don't get invited unless they want to invite you, or they kind of have to because of popular acclaim.
Exactly right.
Because the more bureaucrats, the more power is shared.
You ever seen those pieces of furniture that are they're kind of floating and they're held together by tension, where there's some strings or chains or ropes that hold the pieces, and the only reason that it stays up is because of the tension between the ropes?
Yeah.
That's sort of how the theocracy works with like the arcane casters and the druidic casters, right? Where it's the tension between all of them and the necessity of all of them bring to the table that sort of keeps this city going.
Have there been any even small ones, but like uprising towards the theocracy in the city? Malcontents and all those of any significance? Obviously, the rabble always, whines, but has anyone actually made any strides towards like a more organized?
No, nothing that could even closely resemble an uprising. Like you said, there's always malcontents, people who aren't happy with what they have and want more. But population generally seems content with having all their basic needs cared for. And no one is like slaving people to harvest crops or smith tools or whatever. It's all just kind of expected, and for the most part people accept their duty, particularly because it's so heavily tied into the reincarnation of their soul towards a better life.
Makes sense. Things might suck, but it's better than being eaten.
Yeah, and that's a very common thought process for people here, that like everyone understands the severity of the situation, where like they're really on the edge of being wiped off the map entirely, and only everyone kind of working towards this common goal really keeps it at bay.
How often are the security forces used for internal politics?
What do you mean by internal politics?
So, you know, we have the three major factions, but I assume each one of those is stratified in its own ways, where, you know, there's, you know, the newcomers versus the, you know, old guard who's been there for a century. You know, how often do these guys, you know, have the political sway to, you know, utilize the security forces for whatever their own ends might be?
The higher ups can do that as long as whatever they're sending the security forces to do is coded in enough of a protect the city mindset, or fuck, what's the word?
They have to find some way to justify it.
Correct. Yeah, and it all has to be pointed towards the benefit of the city, the protection of the city, or the people within.
But granted, the higher up the totem pole you are, the more leeway you've got in what counts as protecting the city, because you can always claim that you had knowledge that other people just didn't have access to yet.
Correct. Yeah, that certainly is a potential. There haven't been any major indications of that.
No
or
outright Machiavellian nonsense going on.
any what?
No outright Machiavellian stuff, you know, like, you know, superior murder to get yourself promoted and things like that.
Not that anyone's been caught doing, or at least if they were, it would never became news.
Yeah.
You know, politicians are politicians, bureaucrats are bureaucrats, and if you're power hungry, you're power hungry. So, like, you know, the city doesn't prevent people like that from existing and even taking advantage of some of the systems that exist. But they've got to be much more clever about it in order to get away with it.
Nothing changes.
Hey, Matt.
Yes.
How do you feel about? I'm looking at Storm Sorcerer because I forgot this was something that I had with Xanathars, and a couple of people posted in Reddit about flavoring some spells to be more lightning. Like instead of Firebolt, it's Shockbolt. Would you be okay with that, or would you like to keep it vanilla? Or raw, I guess is the word.
I can't offhand think of any mechanical reasons why that would be a problem.
Okay.
So I think that's fine. Run it by me on a spell by spell basis.
Okay, I can totally do that.
But Firebolt for sure is fine.
Okay.
Are there any, I'm assuming the answer to this is no, but are there any known tribes of people from outside the city?
No. As far as anyone knows, this is the sole bastion of mortal life. So no one's ever been able to make contact with another city that managed to survive as well. Wandering bands tend to just get rolled over by the entities that now have co-opted the material plane for Battleground. So that, there aren't any like wandering tribes to anyone's knowledge.
pick. Never mind. I don't think I like the storm. I think I'm gonna go ahead with just blue, the blue draconic line for lightning. But
Okay.
would you still be interested in working with me on a spell by spell basis?
Yeah, if there's a reason for it, from your character, that makes sense.
I would just think that as a blue, as a lightning, having a blue dragon in my bloodline would mean I'm more adept at lightning magic than I would be at any other elemental type.
True. Is there not a lightning equivalent to Firebolt?
I don't
Probably
think so. I mean, there's Shocking Grasp, but as a sorcerer, I do not want to be within melee range.
Yeah, totally different thing. Yeah, let's talk on a spell by spell basis on that.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, sir.
Are there any problems with like more mundane supernatural baddies? Obviously, roving bands of demons are a considerable nuisance, but things like lycanthropy or vampirism or ghoul problems, especially like down in the slum areas.
Not currently. There probably have been issues at various points, but they're dealt with rather rapidly, as it's basically seen as any other kind of intrusion into the city. One of the realms that intruded on the material plane was the Shadow Realm, which includes a lot of undead creatures like vampires, ghouls, undead, things like that. Not so much werewolves, but there's no reason that lycanthropy couldn't be a problem at some point. But it's treated a lot like any other disease, right, where it needs to be eradicated as soon as possible to not infect this population all living in close quarters.
Sure.
Okay, Matt, sorry. I was just looking it up, and it does look like starting at 6th level, I get Elemental Affinity, which is when I cast a spell that deals the type of damage associated with your ancestry, you can add your Charisma modifier to 1 damage roll of that spell. Is that going to affect how you want to do the spells going forward?
I'd say that I'm okay with still evaluating spells on a case-by-case basis, but any spells that do modify that way won't get the benefit of that elemental affinity, right? It'd have to be the base damage would have to be lightning, right? Not a modified version.
Okay.
So, like, you could still use it with Shocking Grasp or Lightning Bolt, but you couldn't do it with a lightning version of Firebolt. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So, is Lightning Bolt a cantrip?
No. I don't even know if it's a 5e spell. I just assumed. It's definitely a Pathfinder spell, and I'm pretty sure it's a 5e spell, but it's like level 3 or 4 or something.
Depending on how long it takes people to get all their characters finalized, when were you thinking about running or starting this?
I was thinking keeping the same schedule we've been on every other Monday.
2 weeks from now.
Yeah, so we'd meet again on the 18th, and then I'd be available, anytime between now and then to go over any questions you guys have, about your characters or the world or whatever. And then we'd plan probably to start on the 18th to run things, assuming that I can get enough of the stuff prepped by then, which I think I can.
Sweet. Yeah, I think if we're... Yeah. I'm going to change my background story a little bit, but otherwise I think everything that I have should be set up for the most part. I think I got him reverted back to level 1.
Oh yeah, are we going to start our characters at level 1, or do you want to start at like level 2 or 3?
Let's go ahead and start at level 1 since almost everyone is changing, except Amanda and maybe you, Jason.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and start back at level 1, where you guys will have been recently initiated into the security force, and we'll go from there.
Rude.
You just get to cast your Pass Without Trace cantrip a whole bunch of times now, Amanda.
I took that off because it was a spell and not a cantrip. That's okay. I'm gonna redo some of my cantrips and spells anyways, and I might change my character up a little bit. I'm gonna do some research and stuff to...
Yeah, that's totally fine. And feel free to change it entirely if you want to after doing some research, right? You guys are not locked into the decisions you're making tonight. We just, we were all on and it seemed like a good time to chat about things. But if you, Amanda, you decide, shit, a fucking paladin sounds awesome. You're welcome to swap it up if you want.
Okay.
Matt, there's your 4-paragraph essay.
I got it.
I assume that this campaign is not going to be billed quite as outright lethal as Curse of Strahd is.
Considering I never managed to kill one of your characters in Curse of Strahd, it'll be about as lethal.
It wasn't for lack of trying.
I almost had to use the alt character.
I
did
sure
almost die.
My wizard was gonna take it in the end. I was pretty sure.
Oh, yeah, not for lack of trying on your part, that's for sure.
Yeah, it wasn't for an absolutely bullshit roll by our other paladin using a point of inspiration. To
be fair though, that was fucking cool.
Well, there was that, but
I'm not complaining about it.
from what Jericho was saying, because as a squishy wizard, she kept throwing herself headfirst into rooms of danger. So the fact that she didn't get the worst end of the deal is actually pretty surprising.
Okay. On that note, I need to log off because I have something I need to take care of for work before I go to bed.
You're gonna take down everything, break it.
I gotta do all the updates on everything now.
Break it.
Cool. Adam, if you need anything, just call me tonight. I can't imagine I can help you with anything, but if I can, let me know.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's mostly just upgrading servers. It shouldn't take very long. I just have to do a database backup in the case everything explodes on me.
Yeah, well, if everything explodes and I can help, let me know.
If nothing else, you're a convenient person to stream at.
Yep, later, guys.
Bye, Adam.
Bye.
Matt, I assume the hookah's still running. I'll come upstairs and we'll talk about my other character.
Oh,
Cool. Yep. It's
Jason, you never brought up your other idea while Adam was here.
We can catch him up on that. Matt, I'm excited for this game, obviously, because it sounds really cool. You put a lot of work into it. as you talked about, possibly at some point wanting someone else to DM something and letting you play as a player character for once. We had talked a little bit about I was interested in picking up a Warhammer 40k RPG book. And we could run through that. It's a little bit different system than D&D. Functionally it's very similar, roll dice, decide your shit and all that. But it's set within, a vastly different universe. So there would be a learning curve. We can still use Roll20 for it, although a lot of the image stuff will be more home created than anything else. So we'll go back to a lot more of use your imagination.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still, Warhammer is definitely kind of a grimdark universe. But that said, there's a lot of leeway to do stuff inside of that. So if that sounds like something that's interesting to people, I can look into getting a hold of the core book and start reading through that stuff and kind of generating ideas. I've recently discovered that the hardcovers are like over $100. I guess out of print. But there is a pretty awesome little website called DriveThruRPG that you can download. You can buy PDFs of lots of different books for more like $20 to $30.
Nice.
Oh, yeah, that'd be an option.
So yeah, if that's something that sounds interesting to people, I'll probably look into getting a hold of that and start reading through and looking at world construction.
I mean, I'm definitely...
I'm so down, Jason.
It doesn't hurt anything that I am a gigantic Warhammer lore junkie, and this does definitely immerse you in the universe, which is really rich. And it's fine if other people aren't as familiar with it, because I think I can explain it. In fact, from a story-based perspective, there's a lot of things that your character shouldn't know, so it'd be kind of cool to actually work with people who don't have just kind of the metagame knowledge, if you will.
Nice.
I'm down to give it a try.
Yeah, just let us know when you're ready, Jason.
Cool. And
I'm
yeah,
down to
once
play a Space
we
Marine.
start deciding more to look into going seriously down that route, I'll see a way of getting you guys the relevant information from the core book and all that.
Maybe we can pick characters
So, cool.
and
We'll,
talk about that.
Look into that in the future going forward. In the meantime, we got this, fun new world to go play in for a while.
Yeah.
And, perhaps, if schedules permit, we can bounce back and forth between the two semi-regularly.
I'm down. That sounds pretty cool.
I'm in for it.
Josh, you're muted.
How did I...
Is
Oh,
that-
you know what? Yeah, I
You're
am.
muted on my screen.
I was partially muted because I was
There we
not
go.
muted to myself, but I was muted to the group. I keep forgetting I have all these buttons. I push things now and I forget that I do things. And I've got too many buttons that do things now. But yeah, I'm down for that.
Right.
I'm in, so
Give Matt a chance to stretch his player legs for once.
yeah. And it'll give you a chance to stretch your Warhammer junkie knowledge to the rest of us.
I've never DM'd before, so it'll be a bit of a learning experience for me too. But it'll be a learning experience for everybody because it's an entirely new game system.
Right. So,
But from all the reviews I've read, it's apparently very well put together. So, some stuff to learn, but not super clunky and difficult to get your head around.
Nice.
sweet. Let me know when I need to start making a character and we'll get on it.
All right. Cool. Other than that, I'll probably go ahead and head upstairs and converse with Matt about other stuff.
Yep.
Sounds good. I think I'm gonna go ahead and head out too, guys.
Alright.
Cool.
We'll see
Have a
you.
good night.
Bye, Jamie.
Bye.